Whoa. What in the world? Okay, so my camera just was there. Okay. Sorry. Jubilees 44. And Israel took his journey from Haran, from his house on the new moon of the 3rd month, and he went on the way of the well of the oath. And he offered a sacrifice to the God of his father Isaac on the 7th of this month. And Jacob remembered the dream that he had seen at Bethel, and he feared to go down into Egypt. And while he was thinking of sending word to Joseph to come to him, and that he would not go down, he remained there 7 days. If perchance he could see a vision as to whether he should remain or go down. And he celebrated the harvest festival of the first fruits with old grain. For in all the land of Canaan there was not a handful of seed in the land, and for the famine was over all the beasts and cattle and birds, and also over man. And on the 16th, the Lord appeared unto him and said unto him, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here am I. And he said unto him, I am the God of thy fathers, the God of Abraham and Isaac. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make of thee a great nation. I will go down with thee, and I will bring thee up again, and in this land shalt thou be buried. And Joseph put his hands upon thine eyes. Fear not, go down into Egypt. And his sons rose up, and his sons, and they placed their father and their possessions upon wagons. And Israel rose up from the well of the oath on the 16th of this 3rd month, and he went down to the land of Egypt. And Israel sent Judah before him to his son Joseph to examine the land of Goshen. For Joseph had told his brothers that they should come and dwell there, that they might be near him. And this was the goodliest land in the land of Egypt, and near to him, for all of them, and also for the cattle. And these are the names of the sons of Jacob who went into Egypt with Jacob their father. Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, and these are the names of his sons, Enoch and Pelu, Hezron, and Carmi 5. Simeon and his sons, and these are the names of his sons, Jemuel, and Jamin, and Ohad, and Yakshin, and Zohar, and Shaul, the son of the Zephathite woman 7. Levi and his sons, and these are the names of his sons, Gershon, and Kohath, and Merari 4. Judah and his sons, and these are the names of his sons, Shelah, and Perez, and Zerah 4. Issachar and his sons, and these are the names of his sons, Tola, and Phua, and Yasub, and Shimron 5. Zebulon and his sons, and these are the names of his sons, Sarid, and Elon, and Jaleel 4. And these are the sons of Jacob and their sons, whom Leah bore to Jacob in Mesopotamia, 6, and their one sister Dinah, and all the souls of the sons of Leah and their sons, who went with Jacob their father into Egypt, were 29, and Jacob their father being with them, they were 30. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, the wife of Jacob, who bore unto Jacob Gad, and Asher, reading terrible, and these are the names of their sons who went with him into Egypt. The sons of Gad, Ziphion, and Haggai, and Shunai, and Esbon, and Areli, and Arodi 8. And the sons of Asher, Enma, and Ishva, and Beriah, and Sirah, their one sister 6. And the souls were 14, and all those of Leah were 44. And the sons of Rachel, the wife of Jacob, Joseph, and Benjamin. And there were born to Joseph in Egypt before his father came into Egypt, those whose Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, priest of Heliopolis, bare unto him Manasseh and Ephraim 3. And the sons of Benjamin, Bela and Besher, and Ashbel, Gera, and Naaman, and Ehi, and Rosh, and Mupin, and Hupin, and Ard 11. And all the souls of Rachel were 14. And the sons of Bilhah, the handmaid of Rachel, the wife of Jacob, whom she bare to Jacob, were Dan and Naphtali. And these are the names of their sons who went with them into Egypt. And the sons of Dan were Hushim, and Samon, and Asudai, and Ejaka, and Solomon, 6. And they died the year in which they entered into Egypt, and there was left to Dan Hushim alone. And these are the names of the sons of Naphtali, Jaziel, and Gunai, and Jezer, and Shalem, and Iv. And Iv, who was born after the years of famine, died in Egypt. And all the souls of Rachel were 26, and all the souls of Jacob which went into Egypt were 70 souls. These are his children and his children's children, and all 70, but 5 died in Egypt before Joseph, and had no children. And in the land of Canaan 2 sons of Judah died, Er and Onan, and they had no children. And the children of Israel buried those who perished, and they were reckoned among the 70 Gentile nations. Chapter 45. And Israel went into the country of Egypt, into the land of Goshen, on the new moon of the 4th month, in the 2nd year of the 3rd week of the 45th Jubilee. And Joseph went to meet his father Jacob to the land of Goshen, and he fell on his father's neck and wept. And Israel said unto Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen thee, and now may the Lord God of Israel be blessed, the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac, who hath not withheld his mercy and his grace from his servant Jacob. It is enough for me that I have seen thy face whilst I am yet alive. Yea, true is the vision which I saw at Bethel. Blessed be the Lord my God forever and ever, and blessed be his name. And Joseph and his brothers eat bread before their father, and drank wine. And Jacob rejoiced with exceeding great joy, because he saw Joseph eating with his brothers and drinking before him. And he blessed the Creator of all things, who had preserved him, and had preserved for him his 12 sons. And Joseph had given to his father and to his brothers as a gift the right of dwelling in the land of Goshen, and in Rameses, and all the region round about, which he ruled over before Pharaoh. And Israel and his sons dwelt in the land of Goshen. The best part of the land of Egypt, and Israel was 130 years old when he came into Egypt. And Joseph nourished his father and his brethren, and also their possessions, with bread as much as sufficed them for the 7 years of the famine. And the land of Egypt suffered by reason of the famine, and Joseph acquired all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh in return for food, and he got possession of the people and their cattle and everything for Pharaoh. And the years of the famine were accomplished, and Joseph gave to the people in the land seed and food, that they might sow the land in the 8th year, for the river had overflowed all the land of Egypt. For in the 7 years of the famine it had not overflowed, and had irrigated only a few places on the banks of the river. But now it overflowed, and the Egyptians sowed the land, and it bore much corn that year. And this was the 1st year of the 4th week of the 45th Jubilee. And Joseph took of the corn of the harvest the 5th part for the king, and left 4 parts for them, for food and for seed. And Joseph made it an ordinance for the land of Egypt until this day. And Israel lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, and all the days which he lived there were 3 jubilees, 147 years, and he died in the 4th year of the 5th week of the 45th Jubilee. And Israel blessed his sons before he died, and told them everything that would befall them in the land of Egypt. And he made known to them what would come upon them in the last days, and blessed them, and gave to Joseph 2 portions in the land. And he slept with his fathers, and he was buried in the double cave in the land of Canaan, near Abraham his father, in the grave which he had dug for himself in the double cave in the land of Hebron. And he gave all his books and the books of his fathers to Levi his son, that he might preserve them and renew them for his children until this day. Nice. 46. And it came to pass, and after that Jacob died, the children of Israel multiplied in the land of Egypt, and they became a great nation, and they were of one accord in heart, so that brother loved brother, and every man helped his brother, and they increased abundantly and multiplied exceedingly 10 weeks of years, all the days of the life of Joseph. And there was no Satan, nor any evil all the days of the life of Joseph, which he lived after his father Jacob. For all the Egyptians honored the children of Israel all the days of the life of Joseph. And Joseph died, being 110 years old. 17 years he lived in the land of Canaan, and 10 years he was a servant, and 3 years in prison, and 80 years he was under the king, ruling all the land of Egypt. And he died, and all his brethren in all that generation. And he commanded the children of Israel before he died that they should carry his bones with them when they went forth from the land of Egypt. And he made them swear regarding his bones, for he knew that the Egyptians would not again bring forth and bury him in the land of Canaan. For Macamaran, king of Canaan, while dwelling in the land of Assyria, fought in the valley with the king of Egypt, and slew him there, and pursued after the Egyptians to the gate of Ermon. But he was not able to enter, for another, a new king, had become king of Egypt, and he was stronger than he. And he returned to the land of Canaan, and the gates of Egypt were closed, and none went out, and none came into Egypt. And Joseph died in the 46th Jubilee, in the 6th week in the 2nd year, and they buried him in the land of Egypt. And all his brethren died after him. And the king of Egypt went forth to war with the king of Canaan in the 47th Jubilee in the 2nd week in the 2nd year. And the children of Israel brought forth all the bones of the children of Jacob, save the bones of Joseph. And they buried them in the field in the double cave in the mountain. And the most of them returned to Egypt, but a few of them remained in the mountains of Hebron. And Amram, thy father, remained with them. And the king of Canaan was victorious over the king of Egypt, and he closed the gates of Egypt. And he devised an evil device against the children of Israel of afflicting them, and he said unto the people of Egypt, Behold, the people of the children of Israel have increased and multiplied more than we. Come, and let us deal wisely with them before they become too many, and let us afflict them with slavery before war come upon us, and before they too fight against us. Else they will join themselves unto our enemies, and get them up out of our land, for their hearts and faces are towards the land of Canaan. And he set over them taskmasters to afflict them with slavery. And they built strong cities for Pharaoh, Pithom and Ramses, and they built all the walls and all the fortifications which had fallen in the cities of Egypt. And they made them serve with rigor, and the more they dealt evilly with them, the more they increased and multiplied. And the people of Egypt abominated the children of Israel. 47. And in the 7th week in the 7th year, in the 47th Jubilee, thy father went forth from the land of Canaan, and thou wast born in the 4th week in the 6th year thereof. In the 48th Jubilee, this was the time of tribulation on the children of Israel. And Pharaoh, king of Egypt, issued a command regarding them that they should cast all their male children which were born into the river. And they cast them in for 7 months until the day that thou wast born. And thy mother hid thee for 3 months, and they told regarding her, and she made an ark for thee, and covered it with pitch and asphalt, and placed it in the flags of the bank of the river. And she placed thee in it 7 days, and thy mother came by night and suckled thee, and by day Miriam thy sister guarded thee from the birds. And in those days Tarmuth, the daughter of Pharaoh, came to bathe in the river, and she heard thy voice crying. And she told her maidens to bring thee forth, and they brought thee unto her. And she took thee out of the ark, and she had compassion on thee. And thy sister said unto her, Shall I go and call unto thee one of the Hebrew women to nurse and suckle this babe for thee? And she said, Go. And she went and called thy mother Jochebed, and she gave her wages, and she nursed thee. And afterward, when thou wast grown up, they brought thee unto the daughters of Pharaoh, and thou didst become her son. And Amram thy father taught thee writing, and after that hadst completed 3 weeks, they brought thee into the royal court. And thou wast cast 3 weeks of years at court until the time when thou didst go forth from the royal court, and didst see an Egyptian smiting thy friend who was of the children of Israel, and thou didst slay him and hide him in the sand. And on the second day thou didst, and 2 of the children of Israel striving together, and thou didst say to him, Who is doing the wrong? Why dost thou smite thy brother? And he was angry and indignant, and said, Who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Thinkest thou to kill me as thou killest the Egyptian yesterday? And thou didst fear and flee on account of these words. 48. And in the 6th year of the 3rd week of the 49th Jubilee thou didst depart and dwell 5 weeks and 1 year, and thou didst return into Egypt in the 2nd week in the 2nd year in the 50th Jubilee. And thou thyself knowest what he spake unto thee on Mount Sinai, and what Prince Mastema desired to do with thee when thou wast returning into Egypt. Did he not with all his power seek to slay thee and deliver the Egyptians out of thy hand, when he saw that thou wast sent to execute judgment and vengeance on the Egyptians? And I delivered thee out of his hand, and thou didst perform the signs and wonders which thou wast sent to perform in Egypt against Pharaoh, and against all his house, and against his servants and his people. And the Lord executed a great vengeance on them for Israel's sake, and smote them through the plagues of blood and frogs, lice and dog flies, and malignant boils breaking forth in blains, and their cattle by death, and by hailstones. Thereby he destroyed everything that grew for them, and by locusts which devoured the residue which had been left in the hail, and by darkness, and of the firstborn of men and animals, and on all their idols the Lord took vengeance, and burned them with fire. And everything was sent through thy hand, that thou shouldest declare those things before they were done, and thou didst speak with the king of Egypt before all his servants and before his people. And everything took place according to thy words. 10 great and terrible judgments came on the land of Egypt, that thou mightest execute vengeance on it for Israel. And the Lord did everything for Israel's sake, and according to his covenant which he had ordained with Abraham, that he would take vengeance on them, as they had brought them by force into bondage. And the prince Mastema stood up against thee, and sought to cast thee into the hands of Pharaoh, and he helped the Egyptian sorcerers. And they stood up and wrought before thee the evils indeed we permitted them to work, and the remedies we did not allow to be wrought by their hands. And the Lord smote them with malignant ulcers, and they were not able to stand, for we destroyed them so that they could not perform a single sign. And notwithstanding all these signs and wonders, the prince Mastema was not put to shame, because he took courage and cried to the Egyptians to pursue after thee with all the powers of the Egyptians and their chariots, and with their horses, and with all the hosts of the people of Egypt. And I stood before the Egyptians and Israel, and we delivered Israel out of his hand, and out of the hand of his people, and the Lord brought them through the midst of the sea as if it were dry land. And all the peoples whom he brought to pursue after Israel, the Lord our God cast them into the midst of the sea, into the depths of the abyss beneath the children of Israel, even as the people of Egypt had cast their children into the river. He took vengeance on 1,000,000 of them, and 1,000 strong and energetic men were destroyed on account of one suckling of the children of thy people which they had thrown into the river. And on the 14th day, and on the 15th, and on the 16th, and on the 17th, and on the 18th, the prince Mastema was bound and imprisoned behind the children of Israel, that he might not accuse them. And on the 19th we let them loose, that they might help the Egyptians and pursue the children of Israel. And he hardened their hearts and made them stubborn, and the device was devised by the Lord our God, that he might smite the Egyptians and cast them into the sea. And on the 14th we bound him, that he might not accuse the children of Israel on the day when they asked the Egyptians for vessels and garments, vessels of silver and vessels of gold, and vessels of bronze, in order to despoil the Egyptians in return for the bondage in which they had forced them to serve. And we did not lead forth the children of Israel from Egypt empty-handed. All right, I believe there's only 2 more chapters left to go. I will finish them here in a little bit. I've got to finish this stuff I've been making for several hours. So have a good night. Thank you for watching.